a longtime Chicago sports chronicler and Sun-Times sports columnist, Rick Telander, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Rick?
I'm great, Rich. How are you?
How was the scene in Wrigley last night?
Well, it was multi-layered, I'll tell you that, because the day started out, I left for the field, and it was 70 degrees, and the thought was, I know it went through a lot of people's minds, should we wear shorts or not? And by the time the game started, it was 41 degrees, the wind chill of 36, and right before that, some stuff had come down. It almost looked like snow. It was sleet or hail or something, and the sky had turned just coal black, before like about 6 o'clock. So anyway, by the end of the game, which went on forever. It's a good thing you guys are on the West Coast because it ended about 12:40 this time, I think, and there's hardly anybody left in the park. But it was very joyous before that. For the start of the game, even though the weather was awful, 2-hour rain delay, almost 2 hours. It was pretty cool raising the banner. And they raised, I was in the dugout before with Fergie Jenkins and Billy Williams and Ryan Sandberg, and I didn't know why they were there. I know all those guys were just kind of chatting, and they were the ones that hoisted all the flags, the pennants, and then Anthony Rizzo raised the 2016 one out in the outfield and center field by the the big green scoreboard. So that was really nice.
And what did it mean? What does this mean to Ferguson Jenkins, Billy Williams, Ryan Sandberg, all-time Cubs greats who wanted to provide this moment that we're watching on the television screen that went down in Wrigley Field last night? What does it mean to those old school guys?
I asked those guys, and I asked them specifically, and they're very happy. It's deep inside, it's a little bittersweet because they all had teams that might have been good enough. Certainly the 1969 Cubs were with Fergie and Billy and that. And I asked Billy Williams what it would have meant to Ron Santo. And he said, Rick, when I saw Rizzo make that catch last year to end the World Series in Cleveland, the final one to throw from from Bryant on third base, he said, my first thoughts were of Santo and Ernie Banks, and neither one of them lived to see it. And he said, they would have just been out of their minds with joy, because it also is a burden off their backs too. Everything, all the talk with the Cubs, my entire sports watching and writing career, spanning over 50 years, has been. Now it's 70 years they haven't won the World Series. Now it's 80. Now it's 90. Now it's 100. Now it's 108. Black Cats, Goats, Steve Bartman, everything. And suddenly it's all gone. And there's an entire personality shift with the Cubs, 180 degrees. It goes from, lovable losers, which is long gone, to just losers, kind of heartbreaking losers, to champions with a big target on their back. And, we're beginning to think, well, maybe everybody in the world doesn't love the Cubs, although a whole heck of a lot of people do. But I'm sure the Cardinals fans don't. I'm sure the Dodgers fans don't. I guarantee you they don't. During, before the game, they were showing the game against the Dodgers last year in the playoffs, in which Scherzer lost, and Scherzer is there watching the game. So it's everybody's going to have to get used to it. The Cubs are wearing jerseys with gold lettering, gold names on them. We're the champs. They came into the field from out in center field with Rizzo in front of the team, holding the championship trophy above his head. Almost like coming through the corn and Field of Dreams. Mm-hmm. And it was really a wonderful sight. But now you got to think, okay, what does this mean? What do we do now?
Yeah, I know, and that's interesting with Rick Telander at Chicago Sun-Times. That was going to be my next question for you. So when does it go from let's play to and having that as, on their sleeve, and obviously what Ernie Banks represented for this team means a great deal, but he was part of the era where they tried and it didn't go. When does it turn from let's play to let's win 2 in a row, Rick? When does that happen?
Right, I think it's turned right now. And one thing about this team is it's young, and it might be right in kind of the sweet spot for about a 3 to 4 year run. With some tinkering here and there before anybody can even be remotely called old. Most of the guys are in their early to late 20s, right now. And, Anthony Rizzo is, 27, 28? I'm not sure. Brian Schwarber, these guys are young. Albert Almora, Baez. So, and Wilson Contreras, who had a couple of great plays as catcher last time. What an athletic catcher is. What a difference it makes to have a guy who can get out there, especially with John Lester pitching. There's a huge flaw. Lester cannot field anything off the mound. He can't. He can't throw to first base. He'll throw a dribbler over there. So the catcher has to go and get everything, all the bunts, all the, anything that even heads toward the mound. So they've got these guys kind of right in their sweet spot. And winning this year, obviously it takes a lot of luck, but they have to be the favorites, and they should be the favorites next year. Arrieta looks dominant. I mean, we haven't seen everybody. I haven't gotten a full sense of the team yet, but nothing has changed. They're good. And, like I said, the target's on their back.
Rick Telander, Chicago Sun-Times here on the Rich Eisen Show. What are you hearing about? Well, let's not talk draft just yet. How is Mike Glennon's signing in the post-Cutler era landing amongst the Bears fan base there, Rick?
A very soft, quiet landing, to say the least. I bet most fans are like, huh? Because, backup quarterback, everybody says the Bears have had their eyes on him for years, that he's, that kind of talent. But it really doesn't mean anything to anybody here because nobody really knows anything about his playing style. They haven't seen him play much. He's not a superstar. He hasn't been. People just getting over the Cutler era. It was just a disastrous, very sad 8 years with Jay Cutler. He never warmed to the city. The city never warmed to him. And, you start that quarterback hunt all over again. So there's nobody in this draft, I think, that, that would be a surefire starter. Certainly not right away. So it's like treading water kind of for the Bears.
So what are you hearing that they're going to do at 3? What's the scuttlebutt there?
Rich, as you know, I'm all baseball and basketball these days.
I bet. I bet.
I don't know. I've heard everything. This is where, if you read the paper, listen to the radio shows, there's everybody on the planet, every position from linebacker to, offensive tackle, wide receiver, everything. And, frankly, if it's not a star running back, quarterback, people don't, they don't get that excited. It's very hard. So I think most people here are just waiting to see what the Bears do, which could be anything. Including, seems to me, trading might be an option. They quite often do that, trade down, get something else for next year or more players. I don't know what their plan is, but last year was the worst 16-game record they've ever had, 3-13. So, this is a Bears town. That's not good.
So, and then there's the Bulls, who have a home date against the worst team in the NBA, away from making the 8th seed. Is Hoiberg's future there solid? And how is this all playing out? The post-Thibodeau era there for the Bulls.
It's very strange. John Paxson, the president, hired Thibodeau. He wanted him. He hand-selected him, a tough guy, defensive guy. Everybody knew that, no surprise. And then Paxson kind of fired him for being the same kind of coach. And then he brings in Hoiberg, another college coach like Tim Floyd was, who was a disaster from Iowa State, that Jerry Krause brought in. But, it's been so up and down. There's no sense of what or who this team is. Every time Dwayne Wade gets hurt, Rondo plays well, Rajon Rondo. Then Rondo gets hurt, of course, and then somebody else gets hurt. It's just who's going to play. They win a game, I guess, I wasn't paying attention, but they won by 30 points last night over the Magic, I guess, right? Was that the score? I think they just smoked them. And so who are they? Will everybody be ready to play in the playoffs? And it's all they got to do is win this game, and they're in it.
Yeah, 122-75 was the final score. Before I let you go, Jerry Krause passed away a couple of weeks ago. Give me your best Jerry Krause story when you leaps to mind the architect, if you will, of the Jordan years, who had an interesting relationship with Jordan and obviously didn't get a lot of credit for just rolling the basketballs out with Jordan and Pippen. Rick?
Yeah. Krause didn't have many friends. He was super secretive, hence the nickname the Sleuth. And the thing I remember I remember several things about Jerry, and one was we were standing in line getting ready to go to an All-Star game. This is, I don't know, this is years ago. And it was in Chicago, and there were, I guess, obviously passengers who'd made a transfer to get on the plane. I can't remember where the All-Star game was, somewhere, down south or, in New York or whatever. And in front of us, as people got up to go in, there was Sean Kemp. And Krause, now he was already playing for Portland, I guess, or Seattle, whoever he played for.
Seattle.
And he was very young. It might have been his rookie year. Might have been playing the rookie game. And Krause's eyes almost bugged out of his head, and he got so serious he just kept saying, "There's a man-child. There is a man-child." And it was like he had just seen God and the Pope and I don't know, and the Hope Diamond all there at once. It was crazy. I was just right there with him. I started laughing, but he was dead serious. That's how he was about talent. This guy, his whole life, and he told me, he said on his tombstone he wanted to say, "Here lies the heart and soul of a scout." And that's what he was, a scout, a guy who was a talent appraiser and, did it better than anybody.
And then you sit here and you think, well, I mean, the Bulls will never get back to that spot. And obviously the Bears are a long way away from getting back to the Ditka years. And then all you got to do is look at Wrigley and see anything's possible. Things can change. It's unbelievable.
Yes, they can.
Thanks for calling in, Rick. Appreciate the 2 cents on last night's big to-do in Wrigley. Appreciate it.
And go Wildcats, Rich.
Yeah, how about that, Rick? I mean, they got the moment in the sun in the NCAA tournament right there with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Chris Collins.
Oh, my God. Did we see enough of them? And, Chris Collins, I God love him. When Doug Collins was the coach of the Bulls, Chris was always over at the multiplex where the Bulls practice, and it was a public, a private health club. We used to play basketball. We used to kick the tar out of him when he was a little kid, snotty little kid. He'd play. Now he's a coach. He's a cool guy.
And he's got Northwestern on the uptick, so that's pretty neat.
Yes, he does.
You take care, Rick.
All right, see you, Rick.
You got that Chicago Sun-Times. Rick Telander right there.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.